Hi, everybody. I'm Josh May Group Realtors Remax in Grand Rapids, coming to you today. I have a special guest. Phil Prentice is in the house.
Hey
Phil,
Jeff,
say hi to everybody. How's it going?
how are you?
Good, man. Good. I wanna start, the conversation with letting everybody know Phil and his wife Beth have been great friends and clients of mine. We relocated you guys to Grand Rapids a couple years ago. Are you loving GR or what?
Oh yeah, we've been here over 5 years thanks to you. It's been great.
Awesome. So we wanted to continue our community outreach and connecting with people in the community that are, in the trenches. And I thought about you being a respiratory therapist. I mean, as far as being a frontline worker, I'm really happy that you took the time to chat with us because I think that you have a very, very interesting viewpoint of what's going on.
Sure.
Um, so thanks again for taking the time, man. Why don't,
Uh,
why
Beth
don't,
and I really appreciate you and the May Group. You've helped out a lot of our friends with selling and buying houses in the Grand Rapids area, and you're amazing, Josh. Thank you guys.
awesome. Well, I mean, you don't have to sell me that much, but I do appreciate the plug. Um, but yeah, let's get into, for those of us that might not be experts in the medical field, tell us a little bit more about what you do on a daily basis.
Sure. So, as a respiratory therapist, there are a few different roles that we do. But in relation to what's happening right now with the coronavirus and COVID-19, it is generally in the adult population. And I normally work with kids, but our hospital systems throughout the country have been basically helping to train staff back to work with the adults. If there becomes an emergency where we need a lot more staff than normal working in the adult ICU. So even this week, I was working in the adult ICU, which is not generally my normal location. So as a respiratory therapist, the way that you would see us in the hospital is either in the ER helping with emergencies or helping with people with trouble breathing, or on the floors where patients are sick but not super sick, helping with breathing treatments and oxygen and all sorts of other machines that we do for BiPAPs and CPAPs. In the ICU, that's our primary role in the hospital, is working with patients who are intubated on mechanical ventilators. And those are obviously our sickest patients. And that's what we do. That's what I was trained for. And we can work with either kids or babies or adults. It kind of depends on the person
Yeah.
and where we want to work at.
It's such a important part of what's going on, like your specific role in this. And I want to dig a little bit deeper just in the mindset, right? Like you've trained for this your whole life and it hasn't hit West Michigan. I mean, where's the mental side of this? Like, is it a little bit scary? Is this something you've prepared for? Because as far as the respiratory side of thing, like we've never seen this at this scale, right? I mean,
Sure.
how are you doing? How are you doing from a mental side of things?
So I think one of the most important things for people to know is most of our staff who is comfortable working in the ICU is pretty comfortable working with urgently, acutely ill patients, and the the virus that we're dealing with right now is very serious and it is very horrible. But it's not the way that we treat intubated patients on mechanical ventilators that have very bad lung disease um, is not super different than normal.
Yeah.
We're being far more protective of ourselves because of how transmittable this disease is, and we don't want to get ourselves sick
Yep.
helping to take care of patients who are sick. So,
Okay.
but I think for the hospital systems that are not in the really bad hot zones, the great thing for us is that we've had time as a hospital system to ramp up in order to help meet the demand if it comes.
Yeah.
We do have sick patients from this virus all across the state and all across the nation, but many of the hospital systems are not overwhelmed, and that's where we want to keep it.
Yeah. Yeah, so which leads me to my next question. There's been a lot of conversation on, what's working, what's not working. How will we know if we're doing the right thing? I mean, talk to me about that because I feel like, we're in a good spot in West Michigan, on the east side of the state. Things are a little bit different, but tell me what you're seeing, maybe more specifically on the west side of the state.
Right. So I'll give you a good example. This morning I had a friend call me and say, "Hey, how are you guys doing? Are you okay? Like, you must be exhausted." And what I said is the really great thing about our social distancing that we've been doing is our hospital system and most hospital systems are not overwhelmed. And we do have sick patients in our system, but not to the things that you would see from New York City and Detroit, that their hospital systems have had hundreds and hundreds of patients come in sick, very, very sick. We have not had that overwhelming number of people, and it's directly because of the people following what our governor and our president have been trying to get us to do, which is to do social distancing, protect yourselves with wearing a mask in public, washing your hands, not touching your face. And all of those things have prevented this gigantic amount of patients walking through our door and overwhelming our system. That's the entire goal of social distancing, is to prevent our hospitals from being overwhelmed with way too many patients at one time.
Yep. Yeah, no, and I think at first and foremost, the number one goal is safety and getting through this. And
Yes.
we don't want to see that spike. We don't want to see that chaos. And I'm proud to you know say that right now things look good, and I'm glad that you guys aren't feeling too overwhelmed. And we will hope and pray for the best as far as that goes. Now, which leads me to my next question. I've also heard others out there saying, I'm kind of scared to go to the hospital right now. I've got some health concerns, but I don't want to go to the hospital, and that's opening up a whole different set of circumstances that you and I were chatting about earlier. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Sure. So in the news yesterday, there was an article that was from hospital spokespeople saying, "We want you to call your doctor. We want you to come into the ER if you're sick. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be afraid to come into the hospital." The the great thing about what the social distancing has done is that we still have space and doctors available to help treat people if they're sick. So if people are having problems that are not related to this virus, they should not be afraid to call their doctor or to come into the ER. We have the staff to make sure that people are being treated. We don't want you to wait too long, because then you come in way more sick than you should.
Yeah.
Um, and our hospitals in West Michigan and throughout the whole country do their very best to protect our patients from us, and we protect ourselves from our patients, right? So it's the whole system is in place to make sure that we're all being as safe as we can, and we want to treat people and make sure that they're not getting too sick because they're afraid to come in.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. So that's a really good message to spread for sure. Now, shifting gears and kind of closing this in a positive, community
Sure.
oriented fashion. And not that any of this was negative. This is real life, right? This
Yeah.
is what we're all dealing with. I mean, so I do appreciate all the insight to dig deep here. And I just want to get into the community side of things, right? So, and it's kind of two parts. I know you guys, in both you and Beth, are in the medical profession, right? And you have so many friends that are in the medical profession, and we have so many friends that are on the front lines. And we were chatting a little bit earlier about what people are doing for you and what you also are finding helpful from a support standpoint. Talk to me about that, and how you're feeling.
So I've been the great thing about the extreme situations is sometimes companies and individuals and businesses step up and do really extraordinary things. And we've seen that in West Michigan, where some of our local businesses have produced things like hand sanitizer, masks, gloves, gowns, that sort of stuff, where our hospital systems throughout the whole country are hurting for those sorts of things. And when we see our local businesses step up and produce those things for us, it's so really, really cool. And from the individual perspective, people have donated their time, their money, to help with systems all over the country. And then for me personally, it's really great when you see people donating things like food and masks, and they're delivering them to the hospital so that our staff gets a little card and some lunch. And it's really neat when you see people giving back to their community and to help either hospital employees like myself, or there's tons of other frontline workers, not just in the hospital. You know, you talk about your police and fire and first responders, and I mean, in the hospital system alone, you may not have heard about respiratory therapists, but there's pharmacists and lab techs and nurse techs. I mean, you name it. Like, there's so many people that work in this hospital that make things function as a team, that is really important. And I think hopefully everyone's feeling a little bit of love from our West Michigan community, because it's really important.
Yeah. So what you're saying is if somebody checks in with you to see how you're doing personally, you feel good about that, right?
Of course.
I mean, it's a simple message that, I think that all of us are kind of, um, sometimes focused on what we've got going on individually. And it's not going to maybe matter if we reach out to somebody. They're not, they've got a ton of support, but at the end of the day, it does matter. So the message here being, reach out to somebody that's faced with these challenges on a daily basis and just give them support, connect with them, because like you said, you appreciate it, right?
Absolutely. And the important thing to realize is people that we have to be socially distant, but that doesn't mean we have to be distant completely. And things like a video chat and a phone call and a text message are great ways of safely reaching out to friends and family and keeping in contact with those people and letting them know that you care about them.
So awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. Phil Prentice, respiratory therapist, friend extraordinaire, great client. I told you that you're right up there at the top of the client list, right? Like potentially fighting for that number one spot. I appreciate.
Fighting. Who's better than us, Josh?
Yeah,
Nobody.
that's true, right? I appreciate your time, man. Have a great day. Thank you so much. And I'll connect with you soon, okay?
Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate it.
All right.